Alright guys, welcome to the first lesson. So if you go into the O7 practical lessons and inside the exercise file folder, you'll see the O701 vintage design. So this is a resource file, and you can see the title is Frailty of a Woman, the subtitle, the author name, the font. We are going to use the EP Garamond font, and there's a link there for you to download if you don't have it. And then we're going to use some Art Deco ornament borders and a divider and then no photograph. So it's a basic design. It's one of the simplest designs you can ever do. So we are going to open Photoshop, and we're going to make the width, let's say 1800 by 2700 pixels. So make sure you select pixels, and of course the rotation is going to be automatically selected. Then resolution 72, the color mode, make it RGB. Then the background color, you can make it white, or you can choose any color, by the way. So let's just keep it white. And then of course the color profile will be from the RGB color mode. So now we have our dimension. So now we need to use the details to design our vintage book cover. So first things first, we need to add a color, background color. So we could select the color from the beginning, but let's just do some alt delete. So let me put a color code. So it's important for you to have to select your color before you start designing. It's important. So we are going to select that color, click OK, and of course now we need to paint that with the foreground color. So you can click alt delete or option delete on Mac to paint the background color with that foreground color. So now we have our background color. So the next thing to do is to start, since we don't have any image, this is just a plain background, we only need text and we need some ornaments. So we are going to add some Art Deco ornament. So we could use a brush tool, or we could just download one on the internet. So I will show you how to do both. So let's say we use the brush tool, so we could just go into the brush palette or the brush panel, and then if you have it docked there, you can just go there and make sure you can go online and find any Art Deco brushes and download and install it in Photoshop. So now I have two already in Photoshop. I have this one and I could use any one of them. So let's see if this one, I don't like that, so let's continue to go through the list. And I think they are too wide. That's the reason why I probably won't like this one, because I want to be narrow. This, no, that won't work. So let me just go through the other one and see, and that will be good. So you could just select any one of them. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using this, I could just go online and just download any quality one. You can just go online, find any Art Deco decoration or ornament, and these are the two that I'm going to use. I'm going to use one on the outside, I'm going to use one on the inside. So this is one. If you open it up, and then you can just open it up in Photoshop and click Photoshop, okay, and it's very narrow, it looks good. So I can drag it and drop it holding down the shift key so that it's centered. So, and I could just you can click on Ctrl T, and just if you don't want it, you can just reduce it so it's more on the inside, or you can just on the outside. You can just drag it holding down the Alt key to make sure it's centered. So now I have it where I want it. So now I'm going to import the other one, and I'm going to put that in the middle of the first one. So double click on it and open it up in Photoshop and click on OK. And now we're going to drag that one also, hold down the shift key or just the shift key and drop it. So we can see it now, and that's because the color is the same. If you turn out the background color, you see that is the same color. So we need to change either this color or the background color. So you can double click on this and then go to color overlay, and you can click on that color and change it, or we could just make the background color lighter. So double click, it's locked, so you won't be able to do that unless we unlock it. So I'll show you two ways how to do that actually. So we could just click on that foreground color and then change the color, and then use Alt Delete to change the color, paint it. So let me choose this color 303440, and now that's the color. It's a little bit lighter. Alt Delete or Option Delete to paint it, and you can see we can see that ornament. So it's because the background color is now is a little bit lighter. Or we can just double click on this to unlock it. Click on OK, and you can double click on this and just choose color overlay, and then you can just select and add the color. So that's a two way to do that. You can just paint over it, or you can just unlock it. So let me lock it back, because I always like to have the background color locked. So now we're done with the ornaments. Now we can just add the text. Since we don't have any image, let's add text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let me color overlay and change this color. So let's make it let me choose this color C5A 007 or 887, sorry, and it looks so much better. And then we've added that color overlay to that. So now we're done with that. We need to start adding our title. So like I said, we are going to use the EP Garamond font, and this is like a short story. It's more like even though it's a vintage, it's more like a non-fiction book. So it's I'm going to use that EP Garamond, which is a very good font for this. So let's put the title, let's put them on different lines. So I'm going to type D, and I'm going to highlight and then just scrub over that to increase. And of course you can enter it. If you have 34, it's still small. And let me just give it a color. So let's give it a color of that ornament, the same color we use for that first deco, and then let's crop that to increase the size of that text. So let's increase it to about 104. So we can click on Control T, select Control T to transform, and then you can drag to put it in place. And when you see that horizontal vertical line, it means it's centered, it's horizontally centered. So that's how to do that. And now we're through with the first text. We could maybe increase it maybe a little bit more. So just double click and increase that, scrub and check that too. So now we're done with the first. So now we are going to select the text and type in frailty. So just type over frailty, and now the same EP Garamond, but this time around, instead of selecting the italic, we can go here and make sure we are choosing regular, and we can go to increase the size to about 205, and then the text or the character palette, and then make it capitalize it, and then increase it further and check, and we are done. So now we can select the move tool and then drag until we see that vertical line, and now it's centered. So now we're done with that. Also we can select the text tool and then type again, but instead of doing that, we can easily just duplicate any of the layers that we've done before. So let me delete that. You can just select that layer and then delete. So you can duplicate any of the layers. So I'm going to duplicate this layer D because I want to keep the fonts, and then I want it italicized, and then just drag it and type of A. So it's going to retain the size, the color, and everything. So that's why at times it's important for you to just duplicate. So, and then I'm going to frailty duplicate that, Control J to duplicate, and now I'm going to double click or Control T to drag, and now double click woman and check. So the same size and the same everything, and then drag upward, and we're done. So the frailty of a woman, that's the title, and I want it the way. So I'm going to select all the text. So let me click on this to create a group, and then title, and then shift click to select all and drag it to drop all into that group. So we have them in one group, and we can do for this other two, and then just click that and then type ornaments. So we have our ornaments in one group, and then we have the title in one group, and this other one we can just type over the name and call it so let me duplicate this, Control J, and drag it out, and type by, and then drag it out, and then reduce the size. So I want to put it in another group. I'm going to reduce the size to about maybe 86 is okay. So now we have it there. So drag it out of the group, and we can Control J to duplicate that also. Control J and double click Pierre Marcus, that's the name of the author, and you can double click and then change that to regular, and then you can just check that to make sure it's capitalized, and we can drag that to the bottom, and then we're done with the title and the author name. So we can group those two together, and then group and put it as author. So that's the author name. So we have the author name, the title, and ornament. So this is the background, so we can double click and type in background. So that's the background layer, and now we are almost done. So we can leave it like this, since most vintage, this is what they look like. So you can just have it with ornament, with the background color, and then the title and the subtitle, nothing more. Or you can add maybe like a divider. So we could just leave it like this, or we could just use divider. So you can select all these three layers, and then you select that to make sure it's horizontally aligned. So sometimes it's important for you to, after designing every layer, you can just select all the layers and select that layer to make sure they are horizontally aligned, they are all centered. And now let's add a divider. So before we do that, I think I can save. I think we are done with this. You can save, and then I'll come back and add a divider. So to save this is pretty easy. We've done that so many times, so you know how to save. You can just, since this is going to be an ebook cover, so you can just save it as a JPEG, and make sure the first thing you do is to first save it as a PSD. It's important for you to have the PSD saved and save it in a folder. So you have to create a folder first, and then let's name it vintage cover. There's a mistake there, but it doesn't matter right now, so we can change that later. So we can save again, save as, and select JPEG. Make sure it's JPEG, JPEG, and then just select I, quality is I, and then you save. Now we can go to that folder. Now we can see we have the JPEG, we also have the PSD, which is exactly what we want. So this is what most vintage cover, this is what they look like. So it's important, like I said, always save your PSD so that you can always have access, so you can edit that anytime you want, and you can use that for any other design. So now another thing you could do, like I said, is to add maybe a divider. There's so many ornaments that you could add to make it better. So if we go to freepik.com or brusheezy.com, you see these are decorative elements or dividers that you can use, and there's so many quality ones. So you can save the vector files, open it up in Adobe Illustrator, and then save it as a PSD or as a flat PNG, and then import it into Photoshop. Or you could just save it, you could just find a JPEG one, download it. So I'm going to download this one from brusheezy.com, and I'm going to save, and then we can extract, and we can save that. So this is a brush actually. So you can see we can go to Photoshop and go to the brush panel, and so we can just click on that and select import brushes, and I'm going to go into that, and then I'm going to import. So you can see 20 divider brushes, and you can select any one of them, they're all good. And make sure you go into the ornament and then click and then select a new layer on top. Without that new layer, you won't be able to see that. So now if you select any of the dividers, you can see what they look like. So you can click on the left bracket key to reduce, left square bracket key to reduce the size of that brush. So you can continue to, and now then we can just click and it's done. And now we can't see it, and that's because it has the same color as the background color. So we need to go to that and blending option, and of course we need to select color overlay, and now we can just select color and give it the same color as the color of the text, and we are done. So you could do this, put ornament, or you could just leave it and without using the ornament or the divider, and you could just leave it as text. So this is the end of this vintage cover. So this is a typical vintage cover. This is what it looks like. So you can just practice this. Make sure you go into the exercise file. You have all the details there, and you can just follow and design the same thing. So in the next lesson, we are going to design an illustration book cover. So this is the end of this video. Thank you, and on to the next video.